Welcome back to all the students. In today's video lecture, we are going to dive deeper into the evidences of evolution. In previous lecture, we had discussed 6 evidences of evolution. In today's video lecture, we are going to discuss morphological, anatomical and various other evidences of evolution in detail. So let's get started with the first evidence of evolution, which is morphological evidence of evolution. We had already discussed what morphology means in the previous lecture. We'll discuss it again. Morphology means the structure of physical appearance, the study of structure of physical appearance. So the similarity in physical appearance tells us that all the organisms are coming from a single common ancestor. In this point, we actually evaluate the physical appearance of various organisms. Let them be animal, let them be plants. In case of an animal, we see the structure of mouth, position of eyes, structure of nostrils, ear pinna, thick hair distribution on the body. We see all of this, and we see all these character in various animals. If we compare a goat or a sheep to a dog or any other four-legged animals, we can clearly see that the structure of mouth is nearly same with slight differences. It's nearly same, and the position of mouth is again exactly the same as it is in case of any other animal. In the case of position of eyes, you can clearly see that the eyes are located exactly above the nose, exactly here. In case of any animal, let's say it's a sheep, it's a goat, it might be a fox, it might be a dog, you can say a puppy. So in case of all these animals, the position of eyes is exactly same. No other animal is having eyes at the back of their heads, exactly right. So position of eyes is exactly same. So what these things are telling us? This exactly same position of eyes, exactly same structure, nearly same structure and position of mouth is telling us that all those organisms might be coming from different species, but they are coming from a single common ancestor. If they were not coming from a single common ancestor, they would not have similarities like these. The third case we see is the structure of nostrils, like the structure of nose. They have two nostrils as we see in case of animals, all of the animals. So the structure of nostril again tells us that all these animals show great similarity in their physical appearance, which is more than enough to tell us that they are coming from a single common ancestor. They were having a common ancestor in very distant past. So ear pinna again tells us that all these organisms are sharing physical similarity. They're sharing characters of physical similarity. Thick hair distribution. This is a very common aspect of physical appearance of any animal. You can compare a goat, a sheep with a dog or a puppy. One animal is carnivore, the other animal is herbivore. They might be coming from different species, but again, they share very similar characteristics. And lastly, plants. In case of plants, again we see similarity in case of plants as well. Leaf shape. Various plants have same leaf shape with slight differences of sizes and shapes. Leaf petiole. Leaf petiole. Leaf petiole means what? This is a leaf and this is what we call a petiole, through which it is attached to the stem. Then leaf venation. Yes, leaf venation. Leaf venation again is an evidence of evolution because variety of plants show same venation in their leaves. So after studying morphological and understanding morphological evidences of evolution, let's move on to the next anatomical evidences of evolution. Similarity in internal structure. Anatomy means the internal structure study, the study of internal structure of animals. So similarity in internal structure, which is nothing but bones. So in case of a human hand, foreleg of an ox or you can say horse, patagium of a bat and flipper of a whale. Physically, if you see, you do not see any similarity in between all four of these. But if you study the internal structure of a human hand, a foreleg of ox, a patagium of a bat, a flipper of a whale, they might be looking different from outside, from their physical appearance, from their morphology. But in case if you study their internal structure, they are nearly similar. They show nearly similar patterns. They show one bone right over here, two bones set right over here and multiple bones set right over here. So they show great similarities in the internal structure as well. This is what we call anatomical evidences. If these animals were not evolved from a single common ancestor, they should not have shown these kind of similarities in their internal structures as well. So these internal structure like anatomical studies tells us that all the organisms, these all organisms, they might be looking different from their physical factor, physical characteristics, but they are coming from a single common ancestor. So let's move on to the next evidence of evolution, which is vestigial organ. What are vestigial organs? Vestigial organs are degenerated, underdeveloped and useless organs. Remember, these might be useless to us, but the same organs may be useful in any other organism's body. So sudden development of new organ is not possible with the changing surroundings, changing environment. Sometimes environment changes, surrounding changes, nature changes. And with that changing nature, it is not possible for any animal or plant to develop a specific organ to survive in that area, survive in that nature, survive in that surrounding. It's not possible to develop a new organ all of a sudden. So, and vice versa, some organs may become useless under some situation. There might be some situation when we do not need any of our organ. So to degenerate this organ, we cannot do it all of a sudden. We cannot degenerate our appendix if we are not using it for one day. It takes lots and lots of time. It takes thousands and millions of years of time. Such organs degenerate over long duration. If we do not use any organ, it will get degenerated, but it takes a long period of time. It may take thousands of years, possibly thousands of years or millions of years maybe. Some organs may be useful to other organisms, as we had discussed earlier, that degenerated or underdeveloped organs, which are called vestigial organs, they might be useless to us, but those same organs might be useful to any other organism. Then, for example, which are the examples of vestigial organ? Appendix, ear pinna, tailbone, wisdom teeth. Appendix. It is not at all useful to us, but it is useful to cuddling animals, ruminant animals. It is fully functional and they use it. Ear pinna. Ear pinna is present in our ears also, muscles, ear muscles, but those same ear muscles are nearly useless to us. We cannot move our ears like a cat do. So in case of a cat, ear pinna is fully functional. Ear muscles are fully functional in case of a cat. But it is useless in our case. We have ear muscle, but it is nearly useless. We cannot move our ears like cats do. Then tailbone. In our skeletal structure, we have a tailbone. Yes, we do have a tailbone, but it is useless. We do not have a tail, but we have a tailbone. Then wisdom tooth. In most of the cases, in most of the humans, wisdom tooth never gets out of the gums. But whenever it does gets out of the gum, it may create certain problems like infections and many other problems like pain and many other things which may occur, which may lead to some medical conditions as well. Wisdom tooth. But it is there. Yes, it is there in our jaws, in the upper jaw and lower jaw. Yes, it is there. Wisdom teeth is there. But it is useless to us. We do not use wisdom teeth for chewing our food. Okay. So these were vestigial organs. Let's move on to the next evidence of evolution, which is paleontology. What is paleontology? Paleontology is the study of fossils. Now, what are fossils? Millions and millions of years ago, the animals which were walking on Earth, they got buried under Earth. How? There might be some natural calamities, possibly earthquakes, possibly floodings, possibly volcanic eruptions maybe. Due to all these natural calamities, those animals got buried under Earth. And over a long period of time, their bodies became fossils. And when we study these fossils of animals which got buried lakhs and crores of years ago, we come to know their anatomy, we come to know their morphology. So we can study their anatomy, we can study their morphology, and by this study, we can clearly establish a relationship between the animals present on Earth lakhs and crores of years ago and the animals present on Earth currently. And clearly we get an idea that currently existing organisms are coming from those distantly presenting organisms in the past. Okay, so study of these fossils reveals structure of organisms present in distant past. So the study of paleontology, the study of fossils, clearly tells us the anatomy and morphology of those organisms through which we can connect the organisms present in current day and organisms which were walking on Earth lakhs and crores of years ago. Now, an important question arises: how can you calculate the age of any fossil? Somebody might say a fossil which has been found, it's just 20 years old or 50 years old, it's not too much old. So somebody might say that, how can you come to a conclusion that this fossil of a dinosaur is nearly 6 crore years ago, 6.5 or 7 crore years ago? How can you say that? How can somebody in the world say that? The clear answer to this is carbon dating method. This carbon dating method is so reliable that it gives a clear idea about the age of fossil. Now, if you want me to explain carbon dating to you, please write it down in the comments box. So we can actually make a video about carbon dating method and how it works. So carbon dating method actually clearly tells you the age of fossils. So paleontological evidences tell you the story of evolution, how the evolution started and how we get up until this age. Now let's move on to the next evidence of evolution, which is connecting links. Connecting links, these are the organisms which show characteristics of two different groups. Let's see some examples. Duckbill platypus, peripatus and lungfish. These three are classical examples of connecting links. Let's take the first example, duckbill platypus. Duckbill platypus lays eggs at first. But at the very same time, duckbill platypus shows the presence of mammary glands. Now these two characteristics, laying eggs and presence of mammary glands, these two characteristics are totally different from each other. Egg laying characteristics are coming from reptiles or aves, but at the very same time the duckbill platypus also shows the presence of mammary glands. Now no mammal in the world lays eggs. This characteristic, these two different characteristics in the same body of duckbill platypus tells us that the mammals are coming from animals which were laying eggs in the distant past. Next example, which is a peripatus, it is showing characteristics somewhat intermediate between Annelida and Arthropoda. The third example of lungfish is a very classical example of connecting link, lungfish. Lungfish, whenever it is within the water, it respires with the gills and it absorbs the dissolved oxygen in the water. But at the very same time, when it gets out of the water, it respires and try to respire with the lungs. Then these show two different groups of organisms are arising from single group in the distant past. So these examples actually tells us that these two groups, which are currently two different groups of animals or plants, they were actually coming from one single group in the very long time ago in the past. The last evidence of evolution which we have with us is the embryological evidence, and it is a very quite astonishing one. You can say that initial stages of embryonic development shows great similarity in various organisms, and mainly in case of vertebrates, yes, in case of vertebrates, the initial stages of embryonic development is nearly same. Human, tortoise, fish. Let's take example of these three. Human, tortoise and fish, they look nearly same during the initial embryonic development. Whenever they develop in the womb, you can say, or in the eggs, you can say, they show very similar structure in their initial embryonic development. Now when they become adults, when they become fully grown, at that point of time they might not look similar at all. They might be living, like for example fish is living inside the water, tortoise is living on land as well as in water, humans are living on land, humans cannot respire in water. But even after having so much of differences, during the initial stage of development, human, tortoise and fish, they look exactly similar. So this similarity in the initial stages of embryonic development tells us that in the very long time ago, all those three and many other organisms which are vertebrate, they were actually coming from single common ancestor. We are done with the evidences of evolution here. Now in the next video, possibly we are going to discuss about the natural selection and survival of the fittest, the theory given by Charles Darwin. Thank you.